Hey everybody, this is Joseph Pasek, and welcome to Fired Up Live on 12 Ounce Sports. And before we begin, here's our little bit intro about 12 Ounce Sports.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
You are watching the flagship show on the Fired Up Network. Let's all get fired up on Fired Up Live.
We spare no expense here. And by the way, Norm, today is opening day in Major League Baseball, and look where I am at. Look where I am at. All right, I went to 12 Ounce Sports, purchased tickets, but you know what? I have a few friends who are unfortunate, like a guy like Mr. Eric Cohen. I gave him nosebleed seats, right? Nosebleed seats, and hopefully he'll get them and everything like that. But go to 12ouncesports.com, get your tickets. Are you happy for opening day, especially in Toronto, when it's like, hold on, it's like -3 degrees, could be snowing and everything like that. But are you fired up for the new season?
Well, I'm fired up for any sports event, Joe. So, yeah, I'm fired
You
up.
don't sound fired up. I want you to get fired up. It's the opening day.
You can be
Those
fired up.
Orioles pitches, the Blue Jays, the Baltimore Orioles. Guerrero hasn't signed. Bichette hasn't signed. Nobody has signed. They just took your Rogers money and gave it to Alejandro Kirk. Bueno, Alejandro Kirk. Congratulations, Mazel Tov. 5 years, $69 million. Puedo tener un Starbucks coffee aquí or qué? Okay, Norm, go ahead. I asked him for Starbucks for you.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I think, the AL East will be its usual dogfight. And, because some teams have some injuries like the Yankees and Red Sox and Orioles. But, injuries are part of the game. So I think we'll see a real dogfight. Tampa Bay always gets in the mix and does an incredible amount with a very low budget, third to fifth lowest in the major leagues. I don't know about this year, but every year the past several years they've been third to fifth lowest. So Tampa Bay will be scrapping it out and making things uncomfortable for the rich boys, so to speak, in the AL East. And the Blue Jays will be in the mix too. And this year could be, just my gut feel is this year could be the tightest race we've ever seen in the AL East. Like I say, the injuries might level the playing field a little bit. So because, obviously the Yankees are missing the ace of their staff. And like I said, some other teams have some injuries. Baltimore's got great prospects, as many probably as anybody in Major League Baseball. So they're loaded. And Toronto with some key additions with Santander and Scherzer. So we'll see how they work out. And it should be a great year. And I look for the Detroit Tigers to pick up on where they left off last year. They were one of the hottest teams down the stretch in Major League Baseball, had a nice little playoff run for themselves. So look for them to do some special things. And in the West, I think it'll be the same old. In the National League West.
Okay, hold on. Since we're going to do this, we have just two people who said, "What are your boys' predictions in the AL East, NL East, and NL West?" So let's go through the divisions here. Give me your division winner and maybe the wild card. We'll start off in the AL East. We got Baltimore, Boston, Yankees, Tampa, and the Blue Jays, and then close it out with the AL East. Where do you think the Blue Jays finish? So go ahead, give me your first place. Is it Boston? Is it Yankees? Is it Tampa? What do you say?
I'm going to go with the Boston Red Sox.
Boston Red Sox. Okay. You know what?
I think the Blue Jays.
I'm going to be different. I'm going to go with the Yankees. All right. Do you think anybody from this division makes a wild card?
Yeah, I think we might see. Uh, we could we could see even two teams make the wild card, but I don't know. I got to think that one over, Joe. A wild card's a little bit too early for me. I mean, other people want to pick a wild card, go right ahead, but I think it's way too early to start looking at wild cards before we even see how the season unfolds. Look at wild cards after the All-Star break.
So
Not
Norm, yeah, I'm at the Rogers Center on the field. I told you I gave my tickets to a guy named Eric Cohen, formerly of Sportsnet and TSN and the Score. And you worked with Eric Cohen, and he brought you down. I had to build up your career and everything like that. We are joined. See, he felt guilty because I gave him some tickets in the 500 level. So we are joined by your friend Eric Cohen. There he goes. Since you last seen him, he lost more hair, right?
Yeah, the hair there's not much left, Joe. Unfortunately, the full hairdo has been gone. I think ever since 2005. So it's about 20 years now, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Say hi to your friend, the broadcasting legend, Stormin Norm Rumack.
Yeah, I grew up listening to Norm in London on 1290 CJBK. Worked with Norm in Toronto. Always a pleasure to see and hear from the late night vampire.
Well, thanks a lot, Eric. Good to see you and good to hear from you. Thanks for joining us.
All right, so we just began. Norm gave his prediction for the American League East, and if any wild card team is going to come out of the East. What do you say? You're a Blue Jay season ticket holder who has never gave me or Norm any. By the way, they're not wearing black today. Black they're wearing tomorrow. They're wearing white today or powder blue. So go change your shirt. All right. You have never given me or Norm any tickets. Are you going to give me or Norm some this year? Live on international TV.
Decades, my friend, and I think
decades. I haven't gone out of my house in 2.5 years.
I've been to your house many times over that time.
No, only once, and you didn't bring me any Coke or bottle of wine, and now you're blacked out. All right, so give me your predictions for American League East. I guess he's gone. So Norm, let's continue on with you said the Boston Red Sox will prevail, and then the Blue Jays, you don't know, or the wild card team. That's the American League East. Now let's go to the Central. The White Sox, the Guardians, the Tigers, Royals, and Twins. What do you say?
Okay, I'm going to go with the Tigers to continue their hot streak the way they ended last year. And I think Cleveland will be right in there with them. Wouldn't be surprised. I did say it's a bit early to start picking wild cards, but that division is the upper level of that division is pretty tough, like I say, between Cleveland and Detroit. So it'd be nice to see Detroit rise back to prominence like they did at the end of last year and stay there. It's been a while for them. And, Cleveland's a solid team. Minnesota can be a little bit up and down. So I think we'll see some interesting races there. But, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Tigers win. And Cleveland, I did say it's tough to start picking wild cards now, but Cleveland, I think, should be in there. And if not, then vice versa. Maybe Cleveland wins and Detroit gets the wild card. So I'll go with that in the Central, Joe.
All right, Eric, what do you say?
Yeah, sorry about before. I'm just having some audio issues, but yes, I've got. If I'm going to look at all the divisions, I'm going to go with. I agree with Norm. I think Boston wins the East. I think that New York and Baltimore get wild card spots. I'm going to go with very tough in the Central. We got 4 decent teams, all pretty equal: Minnesota, KC, Detroit, Cleveland. I will go with Minnesota. And in the West, I like Texas to win the division. I think that Houston takes a big step back, and Seattle contends for a wild card.
Well, he just screwed up the West, so go ahead, Norm. Give me your picks in the West.
All right. I'm going to go with what Eric said made a lot of sense in the West. I'm going to go with that.
And Okay, I'm not even going to go touch that. All right. So
Well,
let's touch on the National
I
League.
agree, Joe. Joe, you haven't told us what you thought.
Listen, I'm going to give you at the end of both you guys' picks. I'm going to tell you the World Series. Forget about who wins and who's the first. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say the 2025 World Series matchup. Eric, you like gambling. Norm gambles everything. I'm telling you, bet your house on it. And if I lose, it doesn't matter. Your wife will throw you out anyways. So look, I'm telling you, I will tell you it's going to be a surprise. It's not going to be the Dodgers. It's not going to be the Dodgers. They may make the World Series, but they will not win. Eric, National League now, East.
Okay, I think Atlanta's healthy. They obviously collapsed last year with all the injuries, but I got the Braves in the East. I think Philadelphia and New York both get in as wild card teams.
I agree. See, Norm,
Yeah.
you want me to say it? I agree.
All right,
Finally.
looking at the Central, another tough division, but I think the Cubs, despite the fact that they're 0-2 because of those two losses of the Dodgers, will still win that division. They're the best team, and obviously the Dodgers run away with the West. Arizona competes for a wild card spot.
All right. Since Norm wants me to give my predictions, I agree with the National League East. And in the Central, I see Milwaukee wins that division, and the Cubs may get a wild card. And in the West, of course, the Dodgers, but the Dodgers for once, San Diego's going to be right there, and Arizona's going to be right there. So they may be the wild cards. Norm, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go with Phillies to win the East. I think I'll go against what I said. I'll pick a wild card. I'll pick the Mets to get in. Central, I like the Cubs, and yes, the Dodgers will. Dodger Blue will prevail in the West.
All right. So, Eric, I'm going to ask you for your World Series prediction, and then Norm, and then book it. I'm going to tell you who's going to be in the World Series. Look, Eric's typing away. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I've got with Jay's opening day, Joe. So many people coming to me with Jay's in for stuff.
Listen,
But
I don't care what you say about Jays. I'm on the field here. I gave you 500 level tickets. Norm has to do security job.
World Series, I'm going to go with the Dodgers against the Rangers.
Okay, go ahead, Norm.
Dodgers, Red Sox, Dodgers win.
There you go.
Oh, God. But I just told you the Dodgers will not win the World Series this year. The Dodgers will not win the World Series this year. And I'm telling you, the Yankees won't make the World Series this year. All right? So you take those two teams out, anybody else can make the World Series. That is my prediction. All right? That is my prediction. Now, we're based out of Toronto. All of us are based out of Toronto. I know we're on 12 Ounce Sports all over the world, but I'm going to ask you Toronto questions. Forget about if they're going to make the playoffs or whatever. The two burning questions. Norm, I pay you like Vladimir Guerrero. Eric, I paid you like Rance Mulliniks. All right? So, Norm, you tell me if you're the Blue Jays front office, and I know nobody's worth $600 million except you. That's what I pay you. All right? Well, how much do you give Vlad Guerrero? And for that matter, how much do you give Bo Bichette? And for that matter, how much do you give Bill Cottle?
Bill Cottle. Well, gee, Joe, that was before you were born. Why do you care about
him? What do you mean Jim Acker also? Come on.
Right. Anyway, I don't know how much they're gonna give to either guy. Who would know?
How much would you give him?
I give them what they're currently offering them. What is it, 500 or 600?
Guerrero. It's close to 700 by now.
Yeah, it's close to 600, and they are close to getting that extension signed. I think it was just bad PR for the Blue Jays when this didn't work out by Vladdy's deadline that he gave, but I think they have to sign him. I mean, that stadium will be empty next year if there's no Vladdy, no Bo, and the team's not contending.
Eric interrupts Norm all the time. Sorry about the interruption,
Sorry.
Norm.
No, I gave you my answer. I said 600 for Vladdy.
All right. So if you give Vladdy 600, and most likely you're not going to sign Bo, all right? But what would potentially you offer Bo, knowing that you gave $600 million to Vladdy? Do you give Bo 250, 300, 400?
I'd give him between 300 to 400.
So $1 billion for two players. And that's, I don't know if it's Canadian, American, or Swahilan. All right, but that's a lot of money. Only
It's
Norm.
American. Everybody gets paid in American. The National Hockey League gets paid in American. So why wouldn't baseball get paid in American?
So why don't we get paid in yen? I think it's like $3 Canadian to one. Anyways, all right, Eric, go ahead.
I think they got to sign both, but I do think that, Joe, it's going to probably cost $800 to $900 million to get both signed long term, and that's the problem. I mean, the Maple Leafs model, as we've seen with, in the NHL salary cap with $40 million to the top four players, hasn't worked out well the last 6-7 years. The Blue Jays are going to have. Luckily, in baseball, there's no salary cap, as the Dodgers exploit every year, but I think the Jays are going to be up against it as far as the money they got to give. They really should have signed these two guys a long time ago and avoided this, but now they're in this predicament and they don't really have a choice.
All right, so I'm going back to Norm. If it's, we're talking end of July is the trade deadline. If they haven't signed either one, do you trade both of them, Norm?
No, I think the race is going to be so tight in the AL East, the Blue Jays, unless they're out of it. If they're out of it, then trades are certainly a good idea. But if they're still in the thick of it, and they likely will be, you hang on and you try and make the postseason. That's where owners make all their money, is in the postseason. And I can't see the Blue Jays foregoing that opportunity to catch a wild card, or maybe they're still in the running for the division. We'll find out. So no, as long as they're still in the race, I don't think they trade any of their big their big swingers.
So Norm, 10 minutes before you predicted the American League East and all these teams, did you even mention the Blue Jays are going to be in the race? And now you're mentioning the Blue Jays are going to be in the race. Which one is it?
I didn't say they're not going to be in the race. I didn't pick them to win the division, Joe.
Okay, but did you pick them to make the wild card?
I didn't pick anybody in the East to make them.
You pick somebody to pick. You said you didn't know it's too early, and then you're picking every division wild card.
No, in the Central, it's a little bit easier. Eric might disagree with that, but I think the AL East, I think we could see, Eric, a record-setting division race in the AL East, because with some of the injuries, the Orioles have and the Yankees have, I think the Red Sox have a few, sort of levels the playing field. Tampa Bay is always in the thick of it, remarkably, with their low budget. So I think if the playing field is leveled enough from top to bottom, I could see, 3 or 4 or 5 games from top to bottom separating all the teams in the AL East.
Yeah, you're right, Norm. The Yankees have some crippling injuries. The Orioles with their ace Corbin Burns on the DL as well, and Gunnar Henderson. Tampa Bay just lost McClanahan. Red Sox have 3 guys starters on the DL. So yeah, you're right, or IL now. It's going to be tight. It's very tight. I think Boston pulls it out just because I love their offseason. But definitely, I think you're going to see 2 teams from the get wild card spots, because the Central. It's the same thing with KC, Detroit, and Minnesota, and Cleveland, all hovering around maybe 80 to 83 wins. I think the AL East probably 2 or 3 wins better for those teams. So the American League is the first time in a long time they're not nearly as good as the National League. They don't have those powerhouse teams like the NL with the Dodgers and the Braves and the Mets. It's a much more of a dogfight in the AL. It's going to be very interesting.
All right, and when you say dogfight, let's put it like this: in the American League East, okay, you have all these great teams, but you don't have Tampa having a stadium, okay? Tampa not having a stadium, playing in Florida. Now, let me ask you: forget about Toronto in the East. In the West, we have the Sacramento Athletics.
Yeah,
are they
good?
Norm, are they going to do anything in Major League Baseball this year? The Sacramento Athletics.
No.
Okay, very well said, Norm. Very well said.
Thank you.
Eric?
No, Joe. The Athletics, who have been like 100-loss team the last couple of years, have not done anything to improve on that. They'll be battling with the White Sox as far as who's the worst team in the American League.
Now, the Athletics, who are scheduled to move in, I think in 2 years to Las Vegas, are they just going to build, within and get younger and get more higher draft picks for when they go into Vegas and hopefully be a good team? Eric, you'll start us off.
No, I mean, listen, Norm and I and you, Joe, are all old enough to remember the glory years of the A's back in the late 80s and early 90s with McGuire and Canseco and Tony La Russa team. But there's no reason to think the A's are going to be competitive for a long time, unfortunately.
All right, so we'll close it out the next 5 minutes with your, MVP and everything like that. Is Shohei Ohtani a runaway winner for National League, Norm, as MVP?
Well, as long as he stays healthy, he'd be a good bet. That's for sure.
So does that mean yes or no?
Well, as long as he stays healthy, yes.
All right. See, I wanted a yes. All right, Eric, go ahead.
He's certainly the big favorite. But you know what? He has not been able to stay healthy. We don't know when he's going to pitch. So I'm going to go with a dark horse, a 20-1 long shot in Francisco Lindor. We saw him come on last year. Now you add Juan Soto to that lineup in New York. There are some good long shots there. And I think in the American League, a good dark horse to me, I mentioned I like Texas a lot. I even have Texas going to the World Series, which means I think Corey Seager at 10-1 could be a good bet. I think the Rangers with a healthy Jacob deGrom, and after all the injuries they had last year, they're going to be much better this year.
All right. How about the Cy Young in the American League, Eric?
Hard to bet against Skubal, obviously with Garrett Cole not being able to pitch. Skubal, who was dominant last year, pitches today against the Dodgers in a must-see game. I think Skubal probably wins it unless he gets hurt. I know Norm is high on the Tigers as well.
All right, Norm?
Yeah, ditto there on Eric, exactly. Skubal. And in terms of an American League MVP, I'll go with the tried and true. I'll just say Aaron Judge because he's a safe bet.
How many home runs does he hit this year?
He might fall off a little and hit 50.
All right, Eric, what do you say?
Well, he's not going to have a lot of protection, though, Norm, in the line. That's the problem, right, with Soto leaving. Where's Judge's protection? We saw Judge struggle last year in the playoffs. Who protects him in that lineup right now? That's the issue. Uh-huh. But I did give Corey Seager as my AL MVP, Joe.
All right, the Blue Jays right now, if you look at like John Nelson says, the juice boxes, 78 games they're projected to win according to juice boxes. Eric, over or under 78?
I got them winning 83-84.
83-84. Norm?
I'll go just because it's a nice number is 85.
How come that's a nice number for you? What makes it a nice number? First of all, 2 and 8, February 8th to 82 is good. So what? 82 is good. Why makes 85 so good for you?
Because 1985 was a good year.
That's the last time he had a lady friend. All right.
No, that's when the Blue Jays won the AL East for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what? I'll always remember this, Norm. You're old enough to remember this because you were on the air for this. That was the first year that the American League changed the ALCS from a best of 5 to a best of 7. And the Blue Jays were up 3-1 on the Royals in 1985. So had they not changed it, that rule, the Blue Jays would have gone to the World Series. Instead, they blew a 3-1 lead to the Royals, who went on to win the World Series against the Cardinals.
And the year before, 84, remember the Detroit Tigers went 35-5 mark to start the year.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And they throttled San Diego in the World Series that year.
Yeah, and 87, Detroit and the Blue Jays. Look, everybody went down in the last week. The Blue Jays had a 3.5 game lead, And
Lost.
I'm throwing all this because Norm has senior moments, so I'm
Well,
reminding.
Norm, you would have been on the Fan 590 for all
Oh
these.
God, no, Eric, let me
Very
tell you,
well.
I'm going to do it, Norm. I'm going to do it. Listen, on May 10th, Norm Rumack turns 700 years old. You're invited to the big celebration birthday party. Of course, Eric's going to pay for everything. So, do you agree to come to Norm Rumack's birthday celebration with some people coming out of the cake?
You only turn 700 once. I'll be there.
I'll be there. On that note, speaking about birthdays, okay. First of all, Norm knows this, and you know, some lady named Betty. It's her husband's birthday today. Norm, do you want to say anything to Mike?
Yeah, happy birthday, Mike, and here's to many more and good health and happiness.
And you're not going to throw anything for Betty or not?
Well, I always have something for Betty. Betty's the best. What else can you say?
He has
Betty,
a small package for you, Betty. He has a small package for you, Eric.
Well, Norm knows Betty's the best, but happy birthday, Mike. All the best. Have a great birthday.
All right. Any final thoughts as we close here? Norm has to do a security job. Give me one surprise, both of you. Give me one surprise throughout the Major League Baseball season that's may happen in your eyes. Let's start off with Norm.
May happen in my eyes. Okay. Well, you know, I'll go with the real long shot. Tampa Bay is always in the race. Doesn't matter how low their payroll is. As Eric knows, third to fifth lowest in baseball the last several years. And I'll say they'll surprise again by this is a real long shot, but what have I got to lose? Who cares, right? I'll just say Tampa Bay will get a wild card spot. That goes against the grain because of how well stocked the other teams are, but as Eric and I addressed, with all the injuries in the AL East, including to Tampa Bay. But the thing is, Tampa Bay, they had pitching problems with injuries last year and the year before. Every year they lose players to injuries, and every year they find players to fill in. No organization in baseball is better at developing players and finding players from other organizations and filling in, and yet they compete with the mighty Bucks of the AL East every year. They hang in there till August, September. It's remarkable. So I'll go against the grain completely and pick Tampa Bay to get a wild card spot in Major League Baseball.
So, Eric, just to sum up, throughout the show, he says he's not going to pick any wild card. As we close out the show, he picks the Tampa Bay Rays. And Tampa, if they make wild card and they're going to play in Clearwater, Florida, in Winter Haven, Florida, in Orlando, Florida, they're not going to play in Tampa, according to George Steinbrenner Field and his family. But good luck to Tampa. And honestly, that they have to decide on what they're going to do with their stadium. They're going to build a new stadium. They're going to repair the old stadium. They have to decide because it's up in the air again for Tampa. And shout out, Norm, you don't know this. Shout out to my good friend, Steve Carney. All right, Eric, any last thoughts?
Well, you want a surprise from me, Joe, I'm assuming. And the surprise is I'm not going to get my hair back. But the Houston
and the surprise is the Maple Leafs will not win the Stanley Cup. Even Norm has told me.
Yeah, my surprise, the Houston Astros, for the first time with this core, will miss the playoffs. So a team that has been in 7 straight ALCS games or championship series until last year when they lost to Detroit in the wild card round. This year they take another step back and miss the playoffs.
You're wearing the City Connect jerseys. Houston has a wicked new City Connect jersey. Norm wants one. Eric, put up the money to get him a City Connect. For his birthday, do something.
All it is, what can I do for you? One day.
All right, hold on. Since we talked everything baseball. Final question. Since I got Eric here, Norm, I want you to listen to this. Eric has season tickets for the Blue Jays, for Maple Leafs. I don't know for the Raptors. He did, but he doesn't. I don't know what. Okay. Now, you are a lifetime Maple Leaf fan, right, Eric?
I am.
You don't have a job right now. You're depending on Norm to get you a job.
Norm,
right?
okay.
Yeah, you're depending on Norm to get you a job. All right. So how do you spend all this money and not give me and Norm tickets?
How do I spend all my money?
How do
And
you get the tickets and spend it? Why do you spend it on the Maple Leafs? You should spend it on Norm to get new outfits for 12-ounce Sports Network, Fired Up Live. And by the way, I'm going to ask Norm, how do you think Eric did today on the show, Norm? Because he wants to know if we should bring him back.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Thank you. Norm.
I disagree.
I'm
going to look at the first week of all his picks, and if they're not 500 or more, this is the last time you're going to see Eric Cohen on. If they are, he may replace you, Norma, for a couple days. You need your manicure, your pedicure, and all that. So that's it. But Eric, tell everybody how they could get a hold of you, how they could get Maple Leaf tickets from you at a cheaper rate and everything like that.
Well, all my Leaf tickets this year are gone, so come back next year. But as far as how you get a hold of
playoffs, you don't have tickets for the playoffs? Like, of
course I do, Joe. They're a fortune. You know how much they charge for Leaf tickets? Norm knows. They print money at MLSC. It's an absolute.
Okay, hold on. That's a good question. We talked about this. Me and Norm talked about this a couple shows ago. Is it true? Here's a season ticket holder. Is it true they raised it up 20%?
20 to 30% in the uppers and the greens and the purples, yes.
And what about the golds and platinums?
Between the golds, platinums, or clubs, which are the red seats, generally 12 to 15%.
Norm, can you afford these tickets?
No, and I wouldn't buy them even if I could afford them.
Exactly.
But Eric with no hair buys them.
Eric's an idiot.
Me and Eric did a show in 2002. Eric, do you remember what you said in 2002?
Well, the Maple Leafs went to the Eastern Conference Final in 2002.
And what did you say when we did a show?
I did think they were going to beat Jeff O'Neill and the Hurricanes that year, which did not happen.
Again, what did you say?
Home of the 2002 Stanley Cup champion Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, 23 years later, did they win the Stanley Cup yet?
No, but they've won one playoff round.
Did 23 years later, are you paying like $2,000 a ticket?
I'm paying a lot of money for tickets. I'm doing a lot of things that aren't smart.
Well, maybe you should just stay around me and Norm and maybe get smart there also. All right. Tell everybody how they get a hold of you.
On X, Real Eric Cohen. Don't be fooled by imposters. Let's go.
Norm, tell everybody.
Right here on the Fired Up Network. On OS, I know it's 12-ounce sports. Let's get that right. 12-ounce sports right here on the Fired Up Network.
All right. And I may be back here tomorrow around noon for the soccer show. I have to confirm it with Carmen Asako. A lot of stuff are happening with Canadian men's national team. And their best player, maybe his agent shouldn't talk, all right?
His agent had a lot to say, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's it. And good luck to every Major League Baseball team, especially our team here in Toronto. Hopefully Eric and Norm are wrong. I'm always with the Blue Jays. You know, my heart's always with the Blue Jays. Maybe they could win 87, 89, surprise everybody, make the wild card. Then Vlad Guerrero signing with the Yankees for $800 million. Bo Bichette signing with Colorado for $600 million. Eric Cohen losing more here. But stay tuned to 12-Ounce Sports Network for more great sports programming. Thanks a lot, guys.
Take care.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Eric.
You are watching the flagship show on the Fired Up Network. Let's all get fired up on Fired Up Live.